Greetings, everyone. Ray Pezolt here from Denver, Colorado. I've been doing investigations since about 1974. I'm now retired. And the last 12 years of my career was spent as the director of the Denver office for Pinkerton. And while there, one of our principal clients was a little company out of Mountain View, California called Google. And because of my experience with Google and time with them, I learned a lot about their system and how they work and what they do. And today I want to share some of that with you guys to really show you how to use Google to its best capabilities. Now, to make sure everybody understands, when I first started giving this talk back in about 2006, I believe it was, Google was the database, the search source to do everything. There were others out there, Yahoo, Bing, others around, but they didn't have the capabilities that Google did. Today, most of them have caught up. If you go to Bing today, it will do pretty much everything that Google does. In fact, I know of one thing it does that Google doesn't do. So you can use the same information with other sites, but we're going to talk about Google today. So the first thing I want to do is share a PowerPoint with you. And hopefully you can see that. I call this Google more than a white box because most people, when they work with Google, they see a white box, they put something in there, and that's how the search is done. You get millions of hits sometimes, but we're going to show you how to pare that down to get information a lot quicker and a lot better. So our agenda today is we're going to talk about Google introduction, the features. We're going to talk about some search techniques, basic operators, advanced operators, and then how to protect your information from Google. Because remember, if you can use Google, so can the bad guys. And you always want to remember to always search yourself and know what you're looking at. So the white box. In Google, this is the white box. People put something in there, they hit Google search or I'm feeling lucky, and they find, like I said, sometimes millions of hits. But you're never going to look at them all. You're going to look at the first page, maybe two. You're not going to look at everything. So we have to pare that down to get better information. Just as a side note, this came about in 2014. The government started referring to people who used advanced search techniques as Google Dorks. It's called Google Dorking. So just so you know, at the end of today's presentation, you're all going to be Google Dorks. Welcome to the club. The usual search technique, as I said, put a word in the white box, run the search, and accept the information. Try and sort through it then and make sure you get what you want. Google is one of the most powerful databases in the world. 83% of all computer users use it. It accesses 9 billion plus records, and that equals about 3% of the internet. So it is very, very powerful. Usage, students, businesses, investigators, just about everybody uses Google in some regard. And so does the enemy, hackers. It's a one-stop shop for attack on maps, addresses, photos, technical information, anything you can find. One of the things that you want to be sure you do is always audit your internet presence. Put your name into Google and see what comes up. See what can be found about you. Sometimes it can be pretty scary, but it's always a good idea to at least know what's out there. And there are ways to remove it. I'm not going to talk about them today, but they can remove information, and that can be done. So when we first start Google, down in the lower right-hand corner of the main screen is a little prompt that says settings. And we want to access those settings. The first thing we want to do is remember that anytime we're entering any numbers or anything, use the space between the numbers and put them in quotes. Quotes are very valuable to you when you're using Google because it tells Google, I want to look at this exact phrase the way I wrote it. If we use spaces between numbers, it actually figures you have spaces, dashes, slashes, periods. It'll use anything if you just use a space. So one of the things you do anytime you put in a group of numbers, just use spaces between them. When you first set up settings, it'll ask about the results. And the results can be as few as 10 on a page. It can be as many as 100 on a page. Because Google gets paid by click, you don't want to spend 10 clicks to look at 100 results. So I suggest that you change the results from 10 to 100. It's going to be a little slower, but it's not going to be noticeably slower. It's going to be a second instead of a half a second. So it's going to be very, very easy for you to run. I like to pull up a page and there's 100 results on that page and I can scroll through the page instead of having to click and get the next page, click and get the next page, click and get the next page. I just pull up my first page. I've got 100 results. When I click, I have 200 results. So I like to use that results from 10 to 100. One of the things you definitely want to do is turn off safe search. It used to be that safe search was always on. What I'm finding now is safe search is actually off, but you want to check it. I always say the bad guys don't do everything on the Disney Channel. They're going to be using a lot of information that you would not normally use, but in the investigation business and what you're dealing with, you want to see everything. So turn off safe search and basically explore the entire internet. Anytime you search experts, authors, anything of that nature, be sure you search the name Ray Pezolt and Pezolt, Ray. Actually turn them around and do it backwards. A lot of times in bibliographies, in speaking engagements, that type of thing, they will show the name backwards. They'll give you the last name, then the first name. Be sure to search it both ways. And use Google Alerts. If you just do a search for Google Alerts, you'll find that you can put a search in and Google will constantly search that and then in your email send you the results of what it finds. I get it every day. I have search in there on my name. I searched my competitors' names when I was in business. Anytime I had a subject that I was using for an investigation, I always put their name in. An example, we had an individual in Southern California. We investigated, turned out to be a pedophile. We were able to get him jailed, and he was from out of the country. And I created a Google alert with his name. Every day, Google would search that person's name and then send me an email with updates on information for him. When he went to court, I would get an update. When he was deported, I got an update. When any legal action was taken where he was involved, I always got updates. And I didn't have to do anything. The Google alert did it automatically. Again, this is how you put your own name in. Put your own name in there, let it search. And if you show up on Google somewhere, it will send you a note. and will tell you. So always be sure to use Google Alerts. It's a very, very good tool. Some of the basic operators that are used are Boolean operators. And what Boolean operators are little codes that you can put into a search that tells Google what to do. The plus sign is the first. It says take phrase A and put it with phrase B and put the two together. It has to have both of those. A minus sign means we exclude it. I used to search Pinkerton all the time, and I collect Pinkerton memorabilia. You can see some of it behind me. But there's a band named Weezer Pinkerton. I didn't want all of their information. So what I would do is put in Pinkerton minus Weezer. If it comes up to Weezer Pinkerton, I don't get that information. Again, use quotes. If you put quotes around a phrase, it gives you that exact phrase. Some examples, if you use consulting and investigations, which is a term, you'll get 11,500,000 hits. But if you just put quotations around it, you eliminate 10 million hits. It comes back to 1,450,000 hits. So it's a way with just a set of quotes that you can really limit the information you're receiving to information that's worthwhile to you. Some of the other things you can use is the little tilde sign is a synonym. And you can put in tilde food, and it'll return results about food as well as recipes, nutrition, cooking information, barbecue, etc. If you're not sure of a phrase or the spelling, use a period. A single character wildcard is a period. You can see from the example, M period tricks could be matrix, could be metrics, it could be any number of things, and it will give results for all of those. And if you use the star, the asterisk sign, that's any word wildcard. That will change a whole word. It will look for words, not just single characters. This is how Boolean logic works, so you understand. If we have a phrase that's blue and we have a phrase that's yellow, and we put a plus between them, it will only give us what's in the green area, because the blue doesn't have yellow in it, the yellow doesn't have blue in it, but the green has both. So you get blue and yellow, or blue plus yellow, and you will get the green area. If you use or, you will get everything. You're going to get all of the blue, you're going to get all of the yellow, you're going to get all of the green, you're going to get everything, because it doesn't matter. You can get all blue, all yellow, all green. You get everything. If you put not, and you want blue, not yellow, you'll note that all you're going to get is the blue area. So this is how Boolean logic works, so you understand it. Okay, moving on. Google will do things like simple math. 2 asterisk 2 or 2 times 2 equals 4. It'll do that math for you. You don't have to bring up the calculator. It'll do 2 minus 5 if you spell out minus or plus, and it will give you an answer. It'll tell you that 2 minus 5 is a negative 3. It will spell that out for you. Works just like a calculator. It will also do advanced math. Now, cosine 160 degrees, I'm not a mathematician. I have no idea what that means, but I understand that 0.939692621 is a correct answer. So it will do advanced math for you. If you want the square root of 1313 times 5 divided by 6, the answer again is 30.1961182. And I understand that is the correct answer. So it will do advanced math for you. Spell it out, put it in the search line, and it will do it for you. You can convert currency with Google. If you put in 5 USD or dollars, United States dollars, and you want to convert it to yen, Japanese yen, that equals $513.47 in Japanese yen, or Japanese yen, not cents, I'm sorry. And you can see that it gives you the value of the yen throughout the years on the bottom. This was done in 2017, I believe. If you have a word and you need to know the definition, just write define and put in the word. And this time I did define intelligence. You'll note that there was 124 million results, but the first result says it's a noun, the ability to acquire, apply knowledge and skills, and it actually defines it for you. If you drop down in the bottom, it will say translations, where the word originated, other definitions for it, and you can find a lot of information. Just say define. This was something I discovered when I was traveling to Florida. I wanted to know, going from Thornton, Colorado, which is where I live, to Orlando, Florida, and Google actually put in this information for me. And the first thing showed me a path that I can drive. And then it showed me a second path that I can drive. Gave me the distances, the hours that it would take me to drive it. It also showed a flight path where I could fly it. And then the red arrow says, see more information about flights. And if you click on that, I actually got the rates for the flights to go there. And it told me the different airlines, told me what the rates were, how long it would be, how long the flight was, whether it was one stop, no stop, etc., and gave me some information about Orlando, where I was going. It told me some of the hotels that were there. Now, this got a little scary when I did this because I put in the flight information. This is the flight that I happened to fly going to Philadelphia, departed at 11, but it also told me that it was leaving from gate C32. It would be there at 4:35. I would land at terminal E, gate E13. This was all given to me by putting in Southwest Flight 2935. Then you can also track UPS packages, postal packages, FedEx. Just put in the number at the top where Google is, just in the white box, put in their tracking number, and it will find the information for you. Now, I was actually going to Altamont Springs, Florida, and I put in Altamont Springs, Florida into Google, and it came up, gave me the weather, told me about it was partly cloudy, told me what the temperature was, showed there, then it said, explore the area. When I explored the area, I put in hotels, and the first thing that came up was my hotel. I was staying at the Hilton Orlando Altamont Springs. Told me what it costs as a 3-star hotel. And then when I clicked on it, it brought up this. And it says, search nearby hotels. There's the hotel. There's the date of when I was going to be there, when I was going to check out. And probably the most interesting thing was, it said, view an email for this reservation. When I made the reservation for the hotel, I had an email because I'd done it on Gmail. The Gmail reservation actually showed in Google. I could check the weather. Now, this happens to be Estes Park. I checked Estes Park, Colorado, which is a big tourist destination. It was 39 degrees, shows me the weather for the month, or for the week, showed me what it's going to be, and it tells me, and all I did was put weather and a location. Sports scores. Colorado Rockies defeated by the Padres 14-1. This is not this year, but this showed the score for the game that was played the day before. It'll also show sports schedules. You can put it down. I put down the Broncos schedule, and it showed all of the games that the Broncos were playing. This was several years ago, but it shows the date and the time at which they're playing. If I wanted a map of the area, now you could go to Google Maps or several other areas, but you could also go to map, and I put in Black Hawk, Colorado. It's a small gaming town in Colorado, and it brought up a map and shows the town of where it is. And I thought, well, Black Hawk is a small town. It's basically a wide spot in the road. How about something like Washington, D.C.? I put in a map, Washington, D.C. It showed me Washington, D.C. And then down at the bottom, it gives hotels, restaurants. If I want to know where the Lincoln Memorial is, it'll show me. It can show the Korea War Veterans Memorial. It shows these things that are highlights. Click on them and it will bring them up and show them to you. It's very easy to do. World time. I used to have a calculator that would show world time and figure out what it is. Google will do it for you. I put in time, London. What time is it in London when I did this? When I did it, it was 2:54 a.m. on a Wednesday. That was the time in London. And then at the same time, I put in time in Washington, D.C., and it turned out to be 9:56 on Tuesday in Washington, D.C. So just by putting in time, it will automatically give you the time in that area. Unit conversions. I used to have another program, and I could pull up the program, and it would do conversions for me. But then Google will do it for me also. This is 33 Celsius into Kelvin. If I wanted to change it, I want to know what 33 Celsius is. I want to know how many Kelvin. It'll tell me it's 306.15 Kelvin. One of my favorite movies, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Well, how deep is that in feet? So I put in 20,000 leagues in feet, and it gives me 364,566,929 feet. That's deep. So once again, it's working as a calculator, giving me information just by putting it into the Whitebox. It'll give you information about websites. Now, this happens to be the Pennsylvania Association of Licensed Investigators. And I put in info with a colon behind it, www.pali.org, which is Pennsylvania Association of Licensed Investigators. You'll note that it pulls up their website. It says it has membership, code of conduct, news, licensing information, contact details. And then below that, I can find websites that are similar to it. I can find websites that are linked to Pali. I can find web pages from the Pali website, or I can find other websites that contain the term pali.org. And again, all by using info dot or colon www.pali.org. One of the nice things, and I said before, I use a Gmail address. And in using a Gmail address, I discovered this interesting little thing to put together disposable email addresses. You'll note that there's 6 or 7 different addresses up here. They're all repezolt@gmail.com. They can be capital, they can have periods in them. They can even have a plus and additional information. Down at the bottom, it says repezolt plus spam@gmail.com. The interesting thing about what you're seeing here is all of these addresses are the same. They are repezolt@gmail.com. So if I sent an email out using the REPEZOLT, capitalized REP, it would come back to Pezolt at the bottom in red. If I used a period between every letter, it would come back to the same thing as the red one down below. So these are actual disposable addresses. If I want to send a message to somebody, I can send it out, change my address using periods or using the plus. When they respond, it will come back and the email that they send me will be the one I used, but it will come to repzolt@gmail as it shows red at the bottom. It will all go to that address. So if you see somebody using a Gmail address and they've got periods in it or they've got pluses in it, Gmail ignores them. It doesn't see them. But if you're using them, they will know that it's you. Okay, now we're going to get into some advanced operators. And these are some of the advanced operators that Google uses. I'm not going to go through all of them. They're not important, but I am going to go through some very important ones. I'm going to talk about some you need to know about. First of all, why do we use advanced operators? Well, if I put in the term Pinkerton, it's the company I work for, I get 4,610,000 hits. If I put in Pinkerton investigations, I only get 334,000 hits. I can deal with that. If I put in Pinkerton Consulting and Investigations, which was the actual full name of the company, I only get 124,000 hits. That's, again, very searchable. But if I put in Pinkerton Consulting and Investigations, it has to have investigation. I get 116,000. You see, I'm using just a capital and. I could also use a plus sign in there. If I put in Pinkerton Investigations and I put it in quotes, as I said before, it's got to have that exact term. 2020 results. If I use Pinkerton C&I, which is the shortened version, I guess, of consulting and investigation, I get 1,610. You can see I'm searching the same company, I'm searching the same thing, but depends upon how you enter the information as to what results you get. If I wanted 4 million results, I'm never going to look at them all. But 1,600, I may go through all of those and look at them to find the information I'm looking for. So, going to advanced operator, one of the first things I want to hit is cite. Cite tells Google that I am looking for a specific domain name. And you can see at the bottom here, it will find web pages on a specific domain. If we search that specific site, we're only going to get results that come back to that site. If you look at the examples at the bottom, it says www.securitas.com. That is a domain. We could shorten it even further and use site:/gov, and it would only find government sites. So if we do this and we use site www.securitas.com, the results we're going to get are going to look something like this. This is the search at the top. We use site www.securitas, and you'll note that all of these results have the term securitas.com. They have the domain name in them. And it finds only results that have securitas.com in it. Here's the same thing using investigations as a search term and with site:/gov. I only want to find government sites. And once again, it found them, going back, the FBI, the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations from the Senate, the Permanent Subcommittee, Colorado Bureau of Investigation. All of these are government sites. And it found all of those results strictly in government sites. This is my favorite that I just absolutely love, file type. File type says only find this kind of file. I use it greatly when I'm looking for financial information. Financial information is probably not going to be a hypertext document. It's not going to be a rich text format. It's going to be an Excel spreadsheet. So I want to use file type, and my extension would be XLS. An example is at the bottom. We searched Securitas. They were the parent company of Pinkerton. We searched the term budget. You notice both are in quotes. And then file type XLS, because budget and financials are going to be most likely an Excel spreadsheet. When we searched that, we found this site. This was one of several. This is Virginia Beach. And what was interesting about it was we found Securitas Security, but we also found our competitor, Wackenhut Corporation. And they're both listed in here because this was an Excel spreadsheet for their budget. Again, when I give talks and that kind of thing, I like to see, has somebody else done this? This is, again, an expression type, and I'm going to use, in my example, Pinkerton, the company, and file type PPT, a PowerPoint presentation. And you'll note I find a bunch of 726 results to be exact. All of them have the term Pinkerton, but I'm looking only for Alan Pinkerton, not the company. And I find a PowerPoint about Alan Pinkerton, and this is what it looked like. And it's a straight PowerPoint. Be aware, one of the things that I did one time was I searched a company and I put in financials, XLS, pulled it up, and the first thing I got was a PowerPoint. And I thought, that's pretty weird. I went back, I looked at the PowerPoint, and embedded within the PowerPoint was an Excel spreadsheet of the financials of the company. So it was there, but the first result appeared to be a PowerPoint. But this is great when you're looking for something, you're trying to find information, and you'll see how it works as we go through. In title. Within a website, there's a title. And in the title of that website, you're looking for certain names. And these are actually some of the hacking things that I use. And you'll see the example at the bottom says in title. In the title of the website, I want to find index of. And then in quotes, I put parent directory. Now what I'm actually doing is I'm looking for the parent directory of a website. A lot of this is locked down now and you're not going to be able to find it, but there's still some out there that you do. This is one that I found. This was the index of, and it's the parent directory of a website. Each of the notations on the side are files from within that website, and I can open them. It's actually a way to look at the backside of a website. Now, besides having a title, most websites have a URL, a Uniform Resource Locator, and it's using that URL, you can search it. And the way you do it is in URL, and you put in a search term. You can find that search term within the database. The example down here is in URL CGI-bin or all in URL CGI-bin password. It's looking for all of those words within the URL of the website. What a search looks like would be something like this. You can see the Google search at the top. It says all in URL CGI-bin password, and it's bringing up password sites within websites. You can see the website here and then the password. Down here, ncsm.org and the password. These were not locked down sites, and we're actually able to get into the password portion of the website. In text. Again, within the website itself, You have a title, you have a URL, and then you have text within it. If I want to search text in the website, I can do that by using the term in text or all in text. This one here, I'm going to use all in text administrator login. How do I get to the login for the website where I can actually see the login for the website? When I put it in, I come up with something that looks like this. You see, I used in-text administrator login, and it brought up an administrator login for the website. I have eliminated the address so you don't know what website it is. Cache. Cache is kind of an interesting thing because it shows the older version of a website. There are some other ways to get this, the Wayback Machine and some other things, but Google does the same thing. PPIAC is the Professional Private Investigators Association of Colorado. It's a professional organization that myself and a partner started in 1979. But by using the example cache colon PPIAC, it's actually looking at their website and it's showing me this information. It will show you that this file was searched 11 of 2014, and it is showing me the cache of the website from fall of 2012, 2 years earlier. And it will show me the information in the file. Another example is a little company called Enron, www.enron.com, and we'll search cache again. The cache says in 2011, this was the website. It said Enron Creditors Recovery Corporation. It talked about the bankruptcy that they had filed, while the people could get information. But the cache for it, this was a 2007 website and the information that was available. And it says Enron Creditors Recovery is in the midst of liquidating remaining operations and distributing assets. You can see it was done several years earlier just by using cache. And you can see 4 July 2007. Numbers. If you use numbers and you put in an example, computer 500 period 1000, it will find text in websites that have those numbers. Now, if somebody is selling a computer and they want $499 to 1000, it won't find it because it's saying 500. It's got to have 500, not any other number. If you put 700 to 1000, it wouldn't find 500. It's going to search strictly those numbers. If you had DVD player 250 to 350, it's going to find those numbers only. Some additionals or link. If you find web pages having a link to the specified URL, you can put in a URL, put in a link, it'll find all the web pages linked to it. Related, it will find web pages that are related to a specific URL. Info, you saw this with the Pally case that I did. It shows information from it, information that they have in reference to the website. And you can define a search term. You define the search term and it will give you the definitions for it. One of the things that I always say, Google, is it a friend or an enemy? It's everybody's best friend. It can be yours, but it's also the hacker's best friend. Always be aware that Google can be used against you. There's an old term in the military that says, if you find the enemy is in range, so are you. So always be aware that somebody can be using Google for you. Always audit yourself, audit your organization, and know what's on Google and what information is there. Be aware of that. So let's think outside the box a little bit here and figure out what we can do with Google. We can search sensitive information. We can discover confidential documents. We can use it as a vulnerability scanner, use it as a transparent proxy. But how do we do that? Well, think outside the box. Let's take an example, and I want to find salaries. I put in salary, Excel type. Again, I told you it'd probably be an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to search education sites. Now, I could put in the name of the site. I could put in an individual. I could put anything here, but this happens to be one that was done. It was put in using salary, file type XLS, site education, and it actually found a Excel spreadsheet with salary increase calculations on it. And you can see how they work. Social Security numbers. Nobody likes to have their Social Security number out there, but they're there. If we use in title payroll, we use in text Social Security number, we use an Excel spreadsheet, and our site again is education. We search and we find something like this. It actually has the person's name, has their Social Security number, which I have redacted for this purpose. And this was actually a time card that was used by a college for their personnel. And it found the information. These are locked down. You won't find them today, but you will find some information out there. Again, Social Security numbers, it's giving informations, employee time cards, etc. If I'm just looking for financial information, this is really big on companies and competitors. I can put in my file type in Excel spreadsheet. I'm looking for checking accounts, credit cards. I could be looking for credit applications, in text, maybe forms. And I put it in and I find something like this. This turned out to be basically a check register. It shows the numbers on the side, shows where it was spent, show what the money is, and it actually shows financial information. This happened to be for an individual. Again, financial information, index of, in title, and finances, XLS. And we found, again, information from an individual showing their finances. This is one that we did, personal mailbox. I put in the term index of inbox in the URL and got this. This is the backside of a website, but it's actually the backside of an email inbox. This is what it looks like. Each of those numbers on the side are emails. We did a few clicks on it and we actually found the emails. Could bring them up. Personal mailbox, you just saw how that worked. Put it in and actually finds the mailbox without finding individual emails, but it will find the mailbox itself. I always kind of like this one. Put in confidential files and use the terms not for distribution, confidential, not for public release, attorney-client privilege, law enforcement sensitive. You'll find these files and they appear. You'll note this one says confidential, not for distribution, but it's on the internet. I've actually found government files that are on the internet. And it's not against the law to pull them up. They're available to the public. It's somebody else's problem. They made a mistake by making them available. This is a confidential document, was a market testing outcome. And again, it was confidential, not for public release, but it was on the internet and anybody could pull it up. In conclusion, remember that Google can be a dictionary, a basic calculator, science calculator, a weather guide, can give you yellow pages, currency converter, a research converter, an atlas, city guide, websites, and definitely an investigation tool. It's truly more than a white box. Thank you. Here's my contact information if anybody is interested. I work part-time with Advantage Security in Aurora. This is my email address at the top and my cell phone number. Please feel free to give me a call if you have questions. Thank you, and I hope everybody learned something. This is a very, very important topic to me because I use it every day. If you have questions, comments, or thoughts, you have my email. Feel free to give me an email and let me know what you think. Thank you, and good day.